last year, I think when we did this press conference, I think I was sitting with Kawhi and Danny. I'm sitting all alone now. I'm lonely.
I want to thank the Toronto Raptor fans. I don't have social media, so I'm not able to put out a paragraph or whatever. But
comes up shooting. Got it! 1.2 seconds to go. Vince Carter, you are amazing.
Give it to me, a little baby black. Get that garbage out of here.
And we are finally back. Toronto Sport Matters podcast number 76. We've been away for a couple months.
Celebrating a championship.
We've been shit-faced for about 3 months. Greg woke up in a puddle of his own piss this morning.
On a steamship to Sweden.
That's a complete lie. We missed you guys for the last couple months. Obviously, it's the off-season. We have lives beyond basketball. So we are back. We are doing another podcast. The boys are back in town. I got Greg. I got Graffin. I got the trifecta, the tripod, the three-peat. I don't know what I'm saying right
Tricycle?
now. Tricycle. There we go. Those are words coming out of my mouth right now. Big news for the guys in the pod. Greg is finishing up his thesis, his dissertation, his PhD.
It's called Kicking It in the Hood, Sport and Social Inclusion in Cosmopolitan Toronto.
Yep, those are words coming out of his mouth. And additionally, we also have some exciting news from our other podcast member, Mr. Graffin, who's about to be a daddy.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Greg's finding
Congratulations, man. This was the big news, man.
That's why he has a mustache right now, to look like a father, like a man holding a baby.
Ever since I found out, it's been growing. But no, for real, the due date's April 11th. So
really? That's my birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's weird. Really weird.
Or meant to. No, it's meant to. It's the universe telling you that your kid's going to be an amazing person.
What a summer, though. We had the championship.
If he's born on April the 11th.
Yeah. I'm not naming.
And it's a boy. You have to call him Greg.
No, I'm not knowing the sex. I'm going to wait until, it's born, and we'll see what happens.
So was the baby consummated after the Raptors won?
Yes.
Oh, the night of
the championship.
It's a champion.
Name him Kawhi.
Obviously.
Yeah. In the bathroom of Diamond Pizza.
Sponsored by Diamond Pizza.
Alrighty, so obviously we won the championship. We talked about that ad nauseum before. A little bit of a Raptors championship hangover right now. We're just going to start this one off, quarter one, with a brief discussion looking at the top 3 things that we're kind of excited for the season. There's so many things we could speculate about, talk about, analyze, etc. I thought it'd be quick and simple. 3 things that we are all excited to look forward to this upcoming season. Guys, let's start off with Christian. He's going to be a dad. He doesn't really probably going to quit the podcast in a couple months. And
yeah, his life's about to be over.
Yeah, so we'll give him,
you guys.
We'll give him as much airtime as possible.
Now I'm going to go against that as much as possible. I'm going to make sure I come here once a week. We do the podcast nice and quick, 1 hour, and then I get the fuck out of here. So.
Baby in hand.
Yeah, bro, bring it in.
Podcast dad.
Yes.
So who am I starting? You want me to start with?
Yeah.
Do you want to go like 1-1-1 or like 3-3-3 or just do a countdown?
I think we can all talk about the Atlanta Hawks. There's enough to talk about there.
Well, let's do the Raptors first.
Three
things we're excited about. Graffin, what's your big thing that you're excited for? We got 3 things. Do you want to do 3 things each, or do you want to do a roundtable discussion about it? Greg apparently doesn't know how to work a microphone anymore. It's dropping into his mouth right now.
Well, how about this? I'll say my first, and you guys let me know what you think about it. Because for me, the number one thing I'm looking forward to this year, I think, is Norman Powell. And this is
what?
Weird, eh? Weird. It's fully based on the preseason. Because I think that, honestly, he's one of those guys that you've seen in every one of those like Rico Hines workouts and everything like that in the summer. And I don't know how much stock to put into those videos because I get it. Everybody works out. Everybody trains hard. But from what I've heard, and mainly from what I've seen, Norman Powell is looking like he's ready to be the starting shooting guard for the Raptors. And if we get the version of playoff Powell as opposed to inconsistent Powell, which happens all season long, I don't know. That's a player that can average in the high teens in points and could take a huge step that could actually be pretty important for the Raptors. So I don't know. It's also kind of that time for him. For me, it's either now or never.
It's now or never.
So and he was one of those players that I really liked coming into the league as well. He was kind of like a poor man's version of Terrence Ross when he first started, and he's been
that defends better.
Yeah, exactly. He's been better almost ever since. So I'm excited for that.
So just to build off that, right? So I also actually had Powell's name on here as my third thing I'm looking forward to, right?
Okay.
So right, which is him and like the young guns, him and OG, right? Can they step up? But with Powell, like so you watched the exhibition games, right?
Yes.
He looked phenomenal. Like he looks like he's been gunning.
Yep.
Right? His shot looks great. His playmaking looks better. But he didn't just work out Enrico Hines. He went to Kobe's camp. He went to that special camp that Kobe Bryant runs.
That's probably not good in hindsight. We saw what happened to Jason Tatum.
Jason Tatum, yeah. No, but you know what? Like, he's got he's brought a mentality. Like when Mamba mentality. You're right. When
so just jack up 40 shots per game and never pass the ball.
But I'll tell you, his decisiveness,
37%.
He looked good. I'm the graph. He's an exciting thing because he's always had. It's always you've seen it in flashes, you've seen it in glimmers, but like you said, can we get it consistently?
Yeah. So I'm excited to see that, and I think it's going to happen. If I'm a betting guy, I'm thinking Powell's going to take the next step this season and actually average like 16, 18 points.
Well, it's his. Unlike in previous years where he was kind of competing with other people, like sometimes when you're the guy, it takes a bit of pressure off. It allows you to perform at a better level.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how Nick Nurse can kind of structure his offense and create schemes for, two smaller guards in Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry. Like Norman Powell on paper penciled in as a definitive shooting guard, but realistically, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry might see a lot of them in the backcourt together.
And especially closing a game. Fred VanVleet tends to always close the game.
And again, the big thing for me with Norman Powell, obviously he's a great offensive weapon when he's consistent. But closing out games, you have Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry. We're going to depend on Norman quite a bit defensively to be not a stopgap, but a competent defender to position, considering we're going to Fred VanVleet in the closing time.
Yeah.
He's going to be probably guarding the number 2 defender.
And again,
he's an undersized 3.
He was masqueraded as an undersized 3, and now he's back and is like I would assume he's a natural shooting guard. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Craig, what do you got?
So my number 2 this is to me the second most exciting thing, not the first, is a whole season with Marc Gasol as a part of the offense. Because I think when you go into a season with Nick Nurse's kind of creative mind, with a guy like Gasol and coming off him winning the championship with Spain as well, right, the World Cup, and we have the we have the head coach of Spain on our roster as Nurse's assistant.
Fucking love that shit too, man. European, exotic name. That's my guy right there.
I like that ball movement offense, and I think they could probably adopt some of what they were doing there with Spain.
That's what we're going to have to do, implement a lot of European style of basketball, a lot of movement, spacing, we're going
to have to, because we don't have the guys that can go like one-on-one. Or, I mean, we have some, but we don't have the go-to scorer anymore.
Mm-hmm. But that's the Nick Nurse offense, though. He likes that. He likes when the ball moves. I think we all said it last year. All the games that Kawhi didn't play,
the ball moved better.
The ball moved way, way, way better. And that's what is the Nick Nurse offense.
Yeah.
Kawhi was a good, the emergency button, basically. Whenever you get to 10 seconds left in the shot clock, all the plays you've tried have been abandoned, basically. Yeah. Just give it to Kawhi and let him go for like a post 2 or something.
Yeah, and you're right. He stopped. He was a bit of a ball stopper. Like, to a point when it was like almost frustrating, right? I mean, you knew why it was happening, but you could see that when the team was going back and forth between playing with Kawhi and playing without him, there was always rough patches and transitions. And that's why I'm excited. You start the season with Gasol because you know that, okay, this is going to be a pass-happy team.
Agreed.
I think my big one this season is that you look at, obviously we lost Kawhi Leonard, we lost Danny Green, 2 key cogs in the starting rotation. A lot of points to fill in. We did bring in guys like Rondae Hollis-Jefferson and Stanley Johnson, but ultimately, I think the season is largely predicated on the evolution of OG Anunoby and becoming 100%. A little bit more of an offensive force.
He's the X-factor.
Not talking about a 20-point-per-game guy, an offensive dynamo. I'm talking about a guy that can consistently drain the open shot, maybe occasionally get the contested 3 open, 15 points per game, well-rounded skill set. Came in the league with being like this sort of, this underheralded prospect coming in late in the 20s, 23rd, coming off an ACL injury. He was a very sort of trendy hipster prospect. A lot of guys that had a lot of hopes for coming into last season. Obviously, he had a little bit of an injury, but
it was also that he was behind Kawhi.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And playing behind Kawhi, getting an opportunity to sort of fill that role more or less, maybe 60 cents on the dollar. We need this guy to step up. I think a lot of the season is predicated on him sort of
100%.
becoming a contributing rotation guy. The funny thing about OG Anunoby, my girlfriend had an appendectomy. She was back to work in like a week. Raffin brought this point out. Fucking OG Anunoby missed a goddamn playoffs of an appendectomy.
What?
Soft.
His was his burst. Right?
It's
they got to his late.
It's also that like
How does that happen in a league where there's
Yeah.
like an insane money invested toward a medical
Yeah.
staff?
Yeah.
He probably
It costs
had pain, and he didn't want to. Like, he tried to fight through it, thinking it was like something else.
no, but he's right. Like in terms of there's monitoring and evaluation of these guys' bodies, like their
Oh,
racehorses.
oops!
right?
OG's appendix exploded.
Like, they should have
how do you not?
At the same, they're not just doing random MRIs on guys.
Yeah.
They should be doing random MRIs.
Just you get
okay?
a CAT scan after every game.
That's why we brought in Dr. Matt Thomas. He knows how to run the MRI machine. He's not going to get many minutes this year, but he is going to.
But did you guys see the exhibition game against the Chicago Bulls? Did you happen to catch it?
I saw like the Raptors in an hour.
So
basically,
they were. OG was the only starter that we.
Yep.
He was our only top 6 player that we rolled out there, right? And they were going to him as the number 1 offensive option. And the Bulls were set up with their complete starting lineup. They had Otto Porter Jr., they had Zach LaVine, they had Markkanen, right? And OG was showing a little something. He was really showing his offense. Like, he did actually very well. I was impressed. Like, if he can do that, like, for him, it's like, I have faith that he's going to be able to hit the open 3. I do. And he's shown it before. He's also a really good defender, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like this guy is the only person I've seen in the league that bothered
it just doesn't
James
seem
Harden.
like he has that killer instinct.
No, but that's the thing. The number one X factor with him, beyond the shooting, is like his ability to create off the dribble, which he's lacked. But what I'm seeing now, and maybe from watching Kawhi and watching Siakam's rise, because you got to figure watching, because he was a prototype of Kawhi. We always said he's like, he could, at his best, he could be Leonard. At his very best, right, if he evolved. So maybe this season of watching him is going to really benefit him. And maybe we're going to see a whole new player. It looks like it offensively from what I saw.
Are there any of the points you guys want to throw in about the Raptors before we jump in the Eastern Conference?
My number 1 is Siakam.
yeah, okay.
That's got to be number 1.
That one's the most obvious, though.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Siakam's
my
got to
number
be
1.
the closer. Siakam's got to be the guy comfortable having the ball in his hand. Last 10 seconds in the shot clock in the fourth quarter, top of the key. He has to be able to create his own shot.
But how far we've come,
Like,
right?
what do you think his ceiling is?
Well,
Graf, like, what do you think his max point ceiling would be?
Okay, well, I'm just saying, from what I've seen in the preseason so far with Siakam, I think the max point ceiling, they seem to be very comfortable giving him the ball and letting him sort of create from whatever he wants to do. And his passing skills have become so much better. I can see him just more rounding out into a full player as opposed to just getting a lot more points. Mm-hmm. The point production will come. I think he'll average at least 22, 23 points, at least. Mm-hmm. But I think the surprising part will be the assist. I think he'll be up there with like 6 or 7 assists per game. And don't people forget that Lowry's still here. Like, Lowry will be technically he'll be a very big focal point. He's the point guard, the ball handler. Like, we've seen some things in this exhibition games, I guess, or the exhibition preseason, where Siakam's had the ball now coming up the court as well. Yeah. Like, you're going to see him as the most versatile player on the court and asking the most. You're going to see the most minutes out of him.
Well, we'll see what. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
I'm expecting a lot.
We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Kyle Lowry this season. Obviously, 33-34 season. Re-signed for 1 year left. I typically, point guards at that age kind of fall off the face of the earth, so we'll probably see his minutes staggered throughout the season with Fred VanVleet. Well, we can say that now winning the championship, but coming into this season, the motivation might not be there. I don't know where his head's at. He's already got the championship, hit the promised land. Got the new contract for 1 more year to $33 million. How motivated is he going to be this coming season?
He doesn't seem like...
Have you ever, hold on, before you answer, have you ever seen Kyle Lowry play basketball not motivated?
That's my point. He doesn't seem
that's
like
my
the
counter
type.
question to you.
But that's what I was going to say.
I don't think you can put Kyle Lowry on a basketball court and say, even if he thinks, I'm going to take it easy.
He won't.
By the time he lets one guy score on him, he's going to be like, forget this.
Yeah.
I'm going right at it. Like, he can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Last point I kind of want to bring up about the Toronto Raptors would be the inclusion of Stanley Johnson and Ronnie Hollis-Jefferson, two guys that kind of didn't really develop the way we envision. Stanley Johnson more specifically towards draft pedigree. Many people would kind of lampoon them as bust. Masai Ujiri, I don't really doubt his decisions as a GM, and I think Nick Nurse is probably the best coach to get the best of these two players. So it'll be interesting to see how they become part of the rotation, if they do become part of the rotation, because you're talking about two hyper athletic guys that can probably defend 4 positions, play 2 multi-dimensional players, multi-use players.
Yeah. And that's okay. The rationale behind signing them was obvious. Like, you lose two great wing defenders. Okay, we need some athletic bodies in there, right?
Yeah.
And they fit the profile of what the Raptors, like what Masai Ujiri has built this team around, right? Now, that being said, Stanley Johnson has looked absolutely lost.
He's looked atrocious.
Like, absolutely lost.
So far, he has not gelled.
So, I mean, it's too early. And, the guy's played in the NBA, and he's still young, and he looks like a thoroughbred athlete. But I see Jefferson as being the one that makes a more immediate impact.
Yeah, like getting nutmegged by James Harden.
Well, that aside,
that's
right?
a good impact. That's how you get on SportsCenter.
Hey, you know who else really showed up? That point guard. Terrence Davis.
Okay, so it's two other things, like my thing. Terrence Davis, he's emerged out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
And number two would be defense. I think the Raptors could put together like a very good defensive team this year. But
they're going to need to.
But Terrence Davis, let's talk about him.
Yeah, he's
quickly.
A ferocious competitor. He's a big-time athlete.
Everyone's seen, I think he's the one that's been talked about the most this preseason from the Raptors because of his drive. At the same time, we have Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet. Like, we've got shooting guards, we've got Powell, we've got McCaw, we've got. Yeah. It's going to be hard to find minutes.
He'd be a third. He'd be the third point guard that you put on if you need rangy, long defenders to guard a big point guard.
Suffice to say, Campaign is not making this roster.
I don't know. He's not.
There's a lot of bodies. Honestly, Malcolm Miller, Campaign,
Devin Robinson,
Matt Thomas,
the plug, man, the plug.
You're right, Boucher.
He's going to make the roster.
He will make the roster. There's a lot of players right now that are in this training camp fighting for a job.
Yeah. Our roster is flawed in that there's not a lot of shooting, though. Like, if Norman Powell can't develop a consistent outside shot,
Siakam, man, you've been watching the preseason games.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Siakam. And like, because Lowry's always inconsistent with that three.
Oh, look at the percentages. He's pretty good. He's always ranked.
No,
but
what I mean is he gets really hot where he can't miss, and then he's open and he'll miss.
He'll shoot the lights out, or he'll go 0 for 7.
Yeah, right.
The numbers kind of average out the end of the season, but he's hot and cold running game to game.
So him and Powell then should probably just like coordinate that, so they go, against good playoff teams. They both are on.
Right.
Bad teams, they're both off, so Siakam can go off.
But how do you work this motion, pace and space offense, shooting? Like, we shot a lot of threes last year. I can't imagine us.
Well, we'll see if Matt Thomas makes a team. He's another guy that's known as a 3-point sharpshooter.
Didn't they sign him, though?
He's going to be on the team.
He's going to be on the team for sure.
So, yeah.
But he's a guy, like, you kind of need to include him. Like, he didn't play great in the... But at least he brings you the spacing.
He gets you points, though, as well. Like, I know, like, you're right.
He'll bring you the
spacing for sure.
But 100%. He's a defense. He looks to be a defensive liability. He needs to hold his own defensively.
You're saying that because he's white, Greg?
No, absolutely not. I'm saying that because he happens to be smaller than the position that he plays, right? Like, he's not long.
Well, okay, continue the conversation. Greg's racist toward white basketball players. We're jumping in the second quarter, Eastern Conference over-under. Basically, what we're going to do with this, we're going to give you a preview of the Eastern Conference with the bet online win totals of the season, and we're going to predict if they go over or under that win total. We're going to start this one off with the Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference last year, 29-53. The bet online win total is 34.5. Currently in this season, Alan Crabb, Evan Turner, Chandler Parsons, the corpse of Chandler Parsons, Damian Jones from the Warriors, and another cadaver, Jabari Parker. They brought in DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish, and Bruno Fernando in the draft, so a very big haul in the draft. Out was Taurean Prince from Nets. They also traded Kent Bazemore for Turner. Dwayne Dedmon's gone. Amari Spellman's gone to the Warriors, and Miles Plumlee was flipped. Graf, you got them over or under 34.5?
I have them over 34.5. And again, maybe this is no surprise because I've liked the Atlanta Hawks for a long time.
Yeah,
but I do think that Trae Young is one of those players that could be a superstar. Like, again, you look at the second half of his season last year, and everything started to work out. Assist turnover ratio, shot percentage, specifically the 3-point shot percentage. He's capable of carrying a team that, like you said, Brandon, drafted really, really well, and I think really specific for the team. Mm-hmm. With DeAndre Hunter, they're going to get someone, so far what we've seen in the exhibitions, or at least what I've seen, is that he can actually play offense in the NBA. He's not just a defensive player. You add that to everything that they have around them right now, I've always liked John Collins. I think every time I've been to a few Raptors games, and he's always the most exciting player and always seems to play the best against the Raptors.
I like John Collins. I like John Collins more as a center. They have him in a traditional power forward, old school role. I like last year the looks he had when Taurean Prince was playing the 4 and Collins with the 5, like a small ball look.
They're going to season
for them.
I was going to say that's their issue.
Alex Len, I think, is going to be their 5, which might be an issue. So for me personally, I think 34.5 is safe. I stick with that. I'm not going over or under. If anything, I think I'd be on Graffin's side, slightly over. But again, there are limitations on this team. Defensive play might be a big issue.
That's the issue. They have a good coach, though, man.
So we'll see what happens. But
I agree with you.
Don't forget, the Eastern Conference is not going to be as strong this year as it was last year, in my mind. So
I think for the Hawks, the big thing's predicated on Herter sort of getting to that next step. They need him to be the primary defender off Trae Young, because obviously Trae Young's not really going to be the greatest defender based on his size limitations moving down the road. All right, next up is Gregory Urshas, his very own Boston Celtics last year, finishing 49-33. Win totals 48.5 in Kemba Walker and his Cantor. They drafted Romeo Langford, Grant Williams, and Carson Edwards in the second round. Out Kyrie Irving, Al Horford, Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, Aaron Baines, basically a starting 5 right there. I'm going under 48.5. I just can't see this team really being in the top 4 of the Eastern Conference playoff race. We saw what happened in the Olympics when it comes to this team gelling. I think Kemba Walker, based on the culture of the Celtics, would be a slight improvement over Kyrie Irving, but again, not talent-wise. And also, you're talking about losing a guy like Al Horford, replacing it with the Enes Kanter, who's not really known for his defense or his basketball IQ. There's going to be issues in the front court. They really have. Gordon Hayward might get his legs back. Tatum and Brown might make that next step, but for me, 48.5 is way too high.
I agree with everything that you said, but I think that the motivation that the players will have to show up Irving, and the organization will have to want to bounce back from last year, I think will carry them into probably around 50 wins.
But coming into this season, having the majority of your core playing in the Olympics and having that just that mentally draining
that
defeat
would be a negative experience.
Well, they lost coming into the season, right?
That was making them better.
Tatum, Brown, Smart, and Weber. Okay, Walker. Sorry, Walker. That's a main key rotation. 4 guys of this team. They lost. They got embarrassed in the playoffs, and they're coming into the season.
Tatum
I just think
playing.
Can you not see them coming out super flat and just not being able to get over 45? I see the opposite.
I think they're going to be very motivated. Like Brad Stevens probably spent the entire offseason scheming and brooding because of what happened last year.
Well,
right?
Better of after.
Well, yeah, no, because he took some criticism too. So I think you'll have people that are really wanting to prove everyone wrong, but I think that because of there are too many wings on that team. I don't know. Again, the worst thing that this team did, actually, looking back, was signing Gordon Hayward. Right, it happened that way with his injury, right? And now, how is Brown going to get his playing time?
I mean, yeah, you can.
I think if you're talking about a healthy Gordon Hayward, and again, this is all speculative. We have no idea where he's at. Maybe comparison to a Paul George type of injury. If Gordon Hayward is at least 80 cents on the dollar back to form of where he was before, this team could easily win 50 games.
Yeah, that's what
Gordon Hayward is a all-star. That guy is an all-NBA candidate when he was on the Jazz. Again, he's been a shell of himself after the injury, and last season he's obviously not at 100%. But I think, for me personally, for this team to be the top 3 in the East, for this team to even have any hope of making it to the NBA Finals, it's mainly set on Gordon Hayward at least coming back to form.
I will have them also under the number. Yeah. I think they're going to be drastically under. I think that the loss of Al Horford has been pretty much something that people don't talk about much, just because from the defensive standpoint, he is such an anchor of every team.
Well, they lost Baines, they lost Horford, and they replaced him with Cantor.
Exactly. And Cantor,
truth be told,
I like the guy, but
offensively I do, but you might be better off having Alex Len all 82 games as your starting center than Enes Kanter, who can only play one side of the fucking court.
And then the other thing was, again, last year, or for the last 2 years, it seems like in Boston, the issue's always been there's only one ball. the ball can't go to everybody. Everybody can't shoot it all at the same time. They replaced Kyrie Irving with someone who likes to shoot just as much.
And they got rid of the guy
and they got rid of the guy who's the
glues
glue guy.
everything together.
Exactly. And now they have Gordon Hayward coming back from trying his full season to come back from an injury. He's going to want his shots in. Tatum and Brown are both definitely going to want to get their shots in.
And there were games last year where, the young guys, Kyrie, Al Horford, the offense wasn't rolling, and Marcus Morris just took over games.
Absolutely. And
that guy was a pretty integral piece of that rotation last year. So
they have a lot to figure out. So I don't see them gelling right away. I think it takes a long time. I don't think this year people have them at like 50 wins. People think they're top 4 for sure. I honestly don't have them in the top 4 in the East this season. I really don't.
Nothing would make me happier. I said last year that Boston was done. Right, because the way that team is constructed, but they have the same problem. There's too many wings. If Jaylen Brown is to take a step, I don't see how you can have Gordon Hayward on the roster. I just don't.
Well, what do you mean by a step from Jaylen Brown?
Like, he needs more of the ball.
Well, think about
start in his position, but then you have this guy starting ahead of him. Right,
but you can envision a scenario because who is going to be their power forward? Jaylen Brown at 4, Hayward at 3, Tatum at 2.
Jaylen Brown at 4.
He's 6'7", 6'8", big guy, athletic. Look at the way the game's evolving.
Hayward looks even taller than him. No,
Hayward can't play the 4.
But this is my issue that those two kind of overlap, and with Tatum, right? So like you have Tatum as a 2 who starts at. It's a very small ball lineup. And then you have Cantor as your anchor.
It's a small ball lineup, but it also has like weird length in the center of it. Like a Tatum at 2, Brown at Hayward at 3. You know what I mean? Like it has height, it doesn't have height. It's a really weird jigsaw of a lineup that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
The only reason I say that they're going to get there or be better,
you love them so much. You fucking bleed the green. You are the biggest Larry Bird head of all time.
They underperformed so much last year that I feel like that organization is going to be motivated.
All right, so Greg's hometown, Boston Celtics going over.
quick question. Who do you have ranked higher at the end of the season, Boston or Indiana?
Oh.
You have to pick one. Go.
Is Oladipo back and healthy?
Yeah, absolutely.
With a healthy Oladipo?
Yep.
Boston.
Okay, so that's who I have in the top 4, by the way, instead of them.
But no, you're right. They're right there.
All right, moving down the list, we got my Brooklyn Nets last year finishing 42-40. Win total this season is 43.5. In is Kevin Durant. Not playing this year, but Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, DeAndre Jordan, Garrett Temple, Wilson Chandler, Taurean Prince. They snagged Nicholas Claxton in the second round of the draft. And they lost D'Angelo Russell, Damari Carroll, Ed Davis, Jared Dudley, Alan Crabb, Ronnie Hollis-Jefferson, and Shabazz Napier. I'm going over the 43.5. I'm going slightly to 46. Obviously, we're not talking about an NBA championship contender this season without the inclusion of Kevin Durant. But again, you're talking about a team that won 42-40 last year under the great leadership of Marks at the GM and Chucky Atkinson, who's one of the most underrated head coaches in the league. You're talking about a deeper team when it comes to their core inclusion guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, and Jared Allen as well. Again, it's all largely based on Kyrie Irving just taking his head of his ass and letting the ego go. But I think it's a type of situation where he has to prove he is a all-NBA, all-star type of player because he's obviously lost a lot of notoriety on his brand last season after the whole fiasco in Boston.
Brandon, and I agree with all that, but can I ask you, they won last year because of cohesion and like next man up mentality, right? There's no I in team. And then you bring in probably the most one of the most selfish players in the league, right?
Okay,
how does that affect?
Okay, so you're right. You're 100% right.
The playing style and the
I'd like to think Chucky Atkinson, leader of men, can at least corral that sort of individualistic personality.
Brad Stevens,
but let's take a little step back here. When everyone lampoons Kyrie Irving for being this malignant force in the locker room, what is it attributed to? What events, concrete, actual events that have happened beyond from speculation?
He stood
that
up
happened
in front of a stadium of people and said that he was going to resign.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he negated on
It's a business. We've seen this happen millions of times.
But don't say anything.
And don't say it. Then do what Kawhi did, right? At least Kawhi didn't. Look, but hey, it doesn't matter. If he puts the ball in the basket, brother, okay? But with Boston in the playoffs, when it really mattered, he actually didn't. Partly because he wasn't feeling it anymore, but...
Well, Graf is going to go under, so let's hear that.
I think I'm going to go over, but by like 1 or 2. One or two wins.
Kyrie's going to be motivated, man.
Yeah, but questions though for them. Like you said, obviously no Kevin Durant. Who's playing power forward this year? Right? Like
Taurean Prince? Taurean Prince is a big signing. Taurean Prince is probably
going to be also mixed into
He's good.
To their small forward though. Because Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie and Joe Harris, they're all 2-3 kind of. I guess you can mix them in.
Yeah, but those are all three very good, very different players that can fit very specific needs for any given game.
I agree with you, but who's playing the 4 then? It's Karukas. He's their starting 4.
Karukas is not a bad player at all. I wouldn't say he's going to be kind of guy that is going to be playing in the fourth quarter, closing out. But he's a guy that can play 20 minutes a game. Same with Zana Musa as well.
I'm just saying, and I agree with you. And I would say the same thing for DeAndre Jordan. Who's going to start there? Is it DeAndre Jordan?
That's the one thing. That's the biggest piss off, because why do you sign in the corpse of DeAndre Jordan? Obviously, on the Knicks last year, they could even trade him at the deadline, give him that back. Obviously, his love for Kyrie and Durant, etc.
And he was
in on the package.
Well, here's my theory. This is already the beginning of the end for the Nets. It's already the beginning of the demands from Kyrie and Kevin that's going to fuck this team up, because there's really no place to have DeAndre. Jared Allen should be the starting center on this team, and DeAndre Jordan should see 15
should be the backup
should be
center that they play when there's big size.
Exactly.
He should be averaging 15 and 15 on the Cleveland Cavaliers right now.
So again, they're big man. If they're going to be forced to play DeAndre Jordan or start DeAndre Jordan because Kyrie and Kevin Durant like him, then that means your 2 big men are Karukas and DeAndre Jordan. That's not the greatest front court. You mix that in with the fact that Joe Harris is probably going to start at shooting guard, because you're probably going to have LeVert off the bench. You want him as like a 6th man. No?
Don't think so.
You probably have Joe Harris coming off the bench?
I think Joe at 3, LeVert at 2, Kyrie at 1. You obviously have DeAndre at 5, and probably, like you just said, a combination of Karukas or Dzana Musa.
So if Joe Harris is your 3 and Karukas is your 4...
But you're
and DeAndre Jordan's your 5. There's a lot of defensive exposure there.
The point I'm making is that you put Harris at the 3 position. You have the other look of Taurean Prince off the bench being the defensive specialist, being the switched in depending on the matchup.
I think he should start.
I think,
but that's it. That's what I mean, though. It depends on the matchup.
Yeah.
Right. But they're interchangeable, skilled guys who do like they're one thing really, really fucking good.
Brandon,
they're very good at their one individual skill set.
Were you happy when you heard about this? When it all happened? Because you've been on the Nets like from before they were cool.
Well, you guys just both brought up something very interesting. Is we're independent, like you brought up actually the cohesion. You know what I mean? The selflessness, the next man up kind of mentality of the Brooklyn Nets. We'll see if Kyrie Irving can, sort of carry on that tradition, let's say. Let's move down the list. We got the Charlotte Hornets next. Last year, 39-43. Their win total this season is 23.5. In is Terry Rozier.
Oh my God.
They drafted PJ Washington and Cody Martin. Out is Kemba Walker, Jeremy Lamb, Frank Kaminsky, Tony Parker. I'm going under the 23.5 because this might be the worst roster in the NBA.
Oh my God, 23.5. So the Bulls had 22 wins last year, and that was just an atrocious team.
Yeah, but at least they had Zach LaVine.
You're correct.
Who's their Zach LaVine? Terry Rozier?
Yeah.
Nick Batum?
I'm trying so hard to be a devil's advocate right now. No, you're right. It's under. Let's just move on.
Unless Malik Monk becomes like at least a rotation guy, they're done. They've done a terrible job of drafting. They got Michael Kidd-Gilchrist for some reason still on that roster. They got Malik Monk. PJ Washington's a pretty safe draft pick, but for a team like the San Antonio Spurs, who are pretty set, they had to swing for the fucking fences. I do like they have the Martin brothers from Nevada, Cody and Caleb, but beyond from that, there's not much hope for this team.
How did they get 39 wins last year?
Kemba Walker.
I know.
Heart.
You think Terry Rozier is capable?
Is good too.
I think Terry Rozier is going to be a complete disaster. I see this to be the type of thing where they don't have any depth at the point guard position. They're going to have to play him 35 minutes per game, and it's going to be the textbook 21 points per game, 36% from the field kind of thing.
I think
very empty stat line, 4 assists maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to talk much. I think we're all in agreement. It's under 23.5. Moving down the list, we got the Chicago Bulls last year finishing 22-60. Win total 33.5. In is Thad Young, Thomas Satoransky, Luke Cornett. They brought in Kobe White for the point guard position from North Carolina, and out is Robin Lopez. For me, I'm going under that 33.5. That seems really high for me. I'm not quite sure what they did this offseason to make them that enticing as a bottom fringe contender, I guess, or fringe playoff team,
bro.
Internal.
I can't believe I wrote that down.
Internal development, right? Internal development, and like they still have Otto Porter Jr., right? They have Zach LaVine. They have Markkanen. Then that coach seems to really be pushing them. I could see them. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I could see them making a push. To get near to that 500
Yeah,
mark.
but if you're incorporating a new point guard, Kobe White, because Chris Dunn's toast. I don't think he's going to be in the NBA much longer. If Kobe White's your point guard, Because he can't shoot the ball. And he's been in the league for 4 years. He's already 27.
No, he's not. From a fantasy perspective, he's been great.
Anyways, Kobe White, new point guard, face of the franchise, obviously drafted him, 6th overall, 7th overall to replace Chris Dunn. It takes a while to bring in a new rookie point guard, bring up the speed with the NBA.
Yeah.
The game's a little bit different from college, and I'm not quite sure how he's going to adjust off the gate, and I can't see this team you're finishing 33.5, but again, there are bottom feeders in this conference. You got Charlotte, you got Cleveland, you got some pretty shit teams. You got the New York Knicks as well. So, they could steal a couple wins. Maybe 33.5 does make sense, but I can't see them winning over 30 personally.
I don't know. I think they get there.
I think they get around this mark.
I don't think they're getting over the number, but I do think 33.5 is not out of the question. I would put them down for 33 wins, or I guess 34 wins.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I would go right on the number. Like you said, it's all internal development. I do think Zach LaVine is someone who can take the next step. He's a jump shot away from being a superstar. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm. He's got to be an all-star first.
Yeah, he's also.
I know what you mean.
He's also an ACL injury from being a greeter at Walmart.
Yeah, who isn't? So and I do think Kobe White is literally. I don't know. I mean, they're already talking about in Chicago that he's ahead of Chris Dunn. Right. So, and I was a big fan of him at North Carolina. I do think that because that's the one thing they've been missing, I find, for a long time now, is a point guard position. And ever since Derrick Rose fucking left, that's the one thing that the whole franchise has been missing. If they can find a stable point guard, I do think, as much as I hate him, Wendell Carter Jr. is going to slowly develop into a good center.
That's
and
right,
I do think
Wendell Carter Jr.
and I do think Lauri Markkanen's a really good, he's a very modern NBA power forward.
He's a good player.
I like their front court. So I don't know, between those two, Zach LaVine,
Otto
Porter Jr., I don't know what to think of him because he's completely overpaid.
But
he
can at least hold his own position.
In the same sense that we talk about Al Horford, glue guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Fills in the cracks, can take the difficult defender. You got to talk about Zach LaVine being a non-factor as a defender,
I keep thinking of him with his contract in mind, and I should, as an NBA player, he still is very viable.
But they're for a rebuilding team like them.
Yeah,
he's a good, steady.
Alrighty, moving down the list. We got the Cleveland Cavaliers last year, 19-63, win total 24.5. They didn't bring in anybody. They also drafted Darius Garland, Dylan Windler, and Kevin Porter Jr. in the first round, and out is Campaign and J.R. Smith. I'm going to go with slightly under. I don't know about this draft this year. It seems like a lot of teams, Darius Garland, 5-star recruit, a lot of hype coming out of high school.
You liked him, I thought.
Injured his first couple of days for Vanderbilt. I like him, but again, as a 5th overall pick, a guy who missed the entire season, who largely depends on his athleticism.
That's high.
It just seems like a lot of teams, or even Chicago, were reaching for point guards this draft because there wasn't a really good crop of prospects.
But what better situation to develop someone? Just give him a bunch of NBA minutes?
That's another thing. I don't understand their methodology when it comes to drafting, because you're also talking about a team that last year drafted a point guard in Colin Sexton, who realistically doesn't really fit well with Darius Garland, right?
He's going to go to the 2. One of them will go to the 2. I think.
Yeah,
Sexton will go to the
Sexton is just an athletic Monte Ellis type who just, I don't really think it's ever going to evolve into a competent starting shooting guard. I don't think, and I think Garland's perfectly fine, but again, I just don't get the redundancy of taking point guard back to back when the guys were available this year at 5 positions.
Someone's got to rescue Kevin Love from this roster.
He's still there. Oh yeah.
Someone's got to rescue him because, what's he doing?
You got to imagine that they're trading him at the deadline.
We thought that they'd trade him last year, right?
But wasn't he injured
for the first part? But you would think a playoff team would have been. I mean, maybe their asking price was too high. I don't know. The Raptors should try to get him, man.
I knew you were going to say that. Let's trade OG Anunoby and
never
3 seconds for Kevin Love.
Norman Powell and a draft pick.
Yeah, they would take that 100%.
Hey, draft picks are valuable now, man. First round.
And it's not much, but Colin Sexton did shoot 40% last year from the 3. So, he might be.
How many attempts per game?
That's why I said it's not much. 3.6. So it's not a little.
We'll see what happens. All right, moving down the list, Detroit Pistons, 41-41 last year, even 500. Win total this year's under 37.5. They brought in Derrick Rose, Markieff Morris, Tim Frazier, Tony Snell. They drafted the Frenchman Sekou Doumbouya, And out is
Well said.
And out is Ish Smith, John Lauer, Wayne Ellington, Glenn Robinson III. I am over 37.5. I think Dwayne Casey's a fantastic coach. Obviously, this team has a certain ceiling with the front court of Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. I think Reggie Jackson improved last year under the leadership of Dwayne Casey. I think they have a couple interesting pieces. Luke Kennard might become a competent starting two. Or a 3-point specialist off the bench. I think 37.5 is really low.
This team, okay, so you mentioned the ceiling with that front court. The problem isn't their front court. The problem is that those are their best two players and that they don't have any wing talent. You know what I'm saying?
Reggie Jackson?
Who?
Reggie Jackson?
That's not a
Derrick
wing.
Rose?
Yeah, these aren't. Yeah, no, those are guards. But even that, like, it's not.
Oh, okay.
Right? They don't have wing talent.
Whoa, hold on. Big three, Joe Johnson?
There you go. Right?
They lost the franchise, man. Stanley Johnson.
This is the issue with this team, right? Like, so they need to complement their big men with some outside shooting.
No, you're right. 100%. Like, I'm looking up his team and they got our boy though, Greg. They got Sviatoslav Michalik from Kansas.
Yes.
That guy's going to get 80 points per game this year. It's incredible.
Look, I'm rooting for this team. For, like I said, and I think Dwayne Casey, after now he's got a year there, I like the Derrick Rose signing too. I think Derrick Rose still has some basketball in him, man.
Fuck yeah, he does.
All right, guys, are we over, under 37.5?
I'm over.
Over? I'm over as well.
Under.
Oh, you contrarian. All right, let's go. Indiana Pacers.
The realist.
48-34 win total. Pretty much staying consistent at 47.5.
Over.
In is TJ Warren, Malcolm Brogdon, Jeremy Lamb, TJ McConnell. They drafted Goga Bidat C, 15th overall. Yep, I think I said that right.
There you go.
Out, Darren Collison, who became a Jehovah's Witness or something, Tyreek Evans, Bojan Bogdanovic, Thad Young, Wesley Matthews, Corey Joseph, Kylo Quinn, 47.5. Some team needs to get better. Toronto's going to regress. Other organizations are going to regress. I'm a graph on this one. If Victor Oladipo is healthy game one, I got them at least 50.
My God, even if he's not healthy game one, look what they did last year.
Yeah.
Put together 48 wins without him, and now they're putting the win total at under what it was last year.
With Brogdon.
Yeah, and with Brogdon. Are they expecting Oladipo to get injured again?
They lost Bogdanovic, though.
It's not.
He's good.
But they basically were like, you're getting a very, like, obviously not the same value, but a guy that can fill that type of role in Jeremy Lamb. And TJ Warren also comes in as well.
Jeremy Lamb is not as good of a scorer as Bogdanovic. I think
TJ Warren. By the way, one of the most
TJ Warren, yeah.
He was the most underreported story of the offseason, that Tyreek Evans got kicked out of the NBA.
For what?
Drug. He's out. He got kicked out of the NBA.
What drug, do you know?
Probably crack. I don't know.
He wasn't looking great near the end of his career. Do you remember I sent him to our Facebook group a picture of Tyreek Evans?
Oh, no,
when
steroids.
He first came in the league?
Steroids.
And then I posted a picture of Tyreek Evans currently, and it was like night and day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
It was roids.
I'm
almost, or I thought it was.
Look, if you're a betting person, go out right now, get all the loose cash you got, and put it on them getting over 47.5 wins. I'm so confident in this win total. If there's anything I'm going to bet NBA preseason, it's going to be that the Pacers get more than 47.5.
If the Pacers do not get over 47.5 wins this season, you have to name your child Greg. And
no.
So no confidence in the Pacers this year, apparently.
Right? They have a great coach. I think that coach is so underrated. Nate McMillan?
Nate McMillan's
one of the most underrated coaches. You're right about how they managed to pull it off last year. I have no idea. Right? Wait, when does Oladipo come back? It was my understanding that he wouldn't be back until like halfway through the season or something. That's the issue. But if they get a healthy Oladipo, that's where he was, I agree with you. But without him... Right? This is predicated on him being that star as well, right? We haven't seen him, though. We haven't seen... He had that season 2 years ago. And then we didn't...
We'll see what happens with let's run through these really quickly because we're running out of time here, guys. Miami Heat 39-43, win total at 43.5. They brought in Jimmy Butler and they brought in Myers Leonard. They drafted Tyler Hero and KZ Okpala, and out is Hassan Whiteside, Dwayne Wade, Josh Richardson, and they bought out Ryan Anderson. 43.5 win total. I am gonna go slightly over at 45.
I agree. There's an expectation of success there.
I agree, too. I think they're going to go a little bit over. Well, you know what? It's tough.
About Whiteside bringing down that locker room?
I know, but they
Tyler
did
Hero
get
looks
Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler's a great player when he's on his own.
They got a great front court of
he's
Kelly
gonna
Olynyk
he's
and
gonna get
Miles
them.
Leonard. It's
Yeah,
gonna be
I think I'm going to go right at the number here,
Okay.
probably 43.5, probably 44 wins.
All right, Milwaukee Bucks next up, 16-22. Win total is under last year's win of 57.5. In is
Brogdon.
Robin Lopez, Wesley Matthews, and Kyle Korver. They didn't have any draft picks. Out, Malcolm Brogdon. Mirotic took that weird contract in Europe. Pau Gasol, Tim Frazier, and Tony Snell. I'm going to go slightly under at 55. I think Mirotic and I think Brogdon especially was an integral piece of that
big.
rotation. Obviously, Robin Lopez is irrelevant. Wesley Matthews and Kyle Korver are in the latter half of their careers. I just don't see this team improving, and I don't think I think 55 wins is reasonable.
I don't think they're going to need to value the wins that much because they're not going to need that many to become first place in the Eastern Conference.
Exactly.
In my
Philly.
mind, that's all that really matters. It's going to be them versus Philly. They're going to try against the worst teams, obviously the Western Conference teams. But when it comes to the end of the season, or when it comes to the point where they've clinched it, it's kind of like Golden State coming off that 70-9 season or whatever it was, when they were like, you know what, the next year. That screwed us over. Yeah, like that wasn't good for the long run success for us. And they just lost to the Raptors, if anything, getting 60 wins.
Yeah.
So no, I think I don't. 55 is actually a pretty good number. I think I agree with you. Maybe 56.
Okay. All right, New York Knicks last year 17-65, slight improvement this year. Win total of 26.5. They brought in a Horgersborg of big men: Julius Randle, Bobby Portis, Marcus Morris, Taj Gibson. They also brought in Reggie Bullock, Wayne Ellington, Alfred Payton. They drafted R.J. Barrett and Oakville's very own Ignas Brazdeikis. And out is Emmanuel Mudiay, Mario Hezonja, Noah Vonleh, DeAndre Jordan. I'm going slight under at 26. Graf, what do you got?
I'm going over, actually. I like Julius Randle. I like R.J. Barrett. I know they have way too many forwards, small and power, but
they seem like a team that like sneaky 41-41 playoff team.
Dennis Smith Jr. too.
What?
I don't know.
No,
I have them over this 26. I have them probably around right around where they're probably 31, 32.
explain to me what the fuck this team was thinking. They traded Kristaps Porzingis on a whim to think that they were going to get
because
free
New York doesn't
agents.
want to have people who assault women on their roster. Okay, they made the right decision.
Didn't they sign Marcus Morris?
Yeah, okay.
Look, and then they go out and sign like 4 power forwards, and then they draft a player who is going to be playing the same position as the guy that they got back in the Porzingis trade.
Who?
Dennis Smith Jr. He plays point guard, right?
RJ Barrett's on a point guard.
Isn't he point guard? They got playing point guard. What, are you playing shooting guard?
Yeah,
He's a small
for sure.
forward.
Or
He's
small
like
forward.
6'8".
No, but he played point guard at
either
Duke.
one.
No, he didn't.
No,
Tyus Jones did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at their starting 5 is probably Dennis Smith Jr., R.J. Barrett, maybe Marcus Morris, Julius Randle, and then Mitchell Robinson. That's not a bad
You know
starting
what?
5.
I do like Mitchell Robinson.
That's a good starting
and
5.
Marcus Morris is good too.
And so is Julius Randle. Man, I'm
Mitchell
telling you,
Robinson was a
together.
steal of the draft last year.
Together?
Steal. That guy
Yeah,
he decommitted from Eastern Kentucky, was just not playing in college.
Yeah.
Thought he was a head case, shop a second round. That guy looked.
He's an amazing athlete.
The issue with me for this team is the depth. I think beyond their starting 5, they really don't have much, right? Like you're looking at the Taj Gibsons and Alonzo Triers and Frank Nikita.
Kevin Knox might kind of turn a corner. This year, you never
So
know.
Kevin Knox and Iggy are pretty much the only 2 players I think they have on their bench that are even worth mentioning. Other than that,
Ignas Brazdeikis?
their backup point guard's Alfred Payton. Like, you know, it's slim pickings beyond their starting 5. So
Right.
I think they're going to go above 26 wins, but not above 30.
Graf and I over. Greg's got the under. Orlando Magic, 42-40 last year. Pretty surprising. Win total about the same, 41.5. They brought in Al-Farouq Aminu. They drafted Chuma Okuke, who's probably not going to play this year after the knee injury. And out is my boy Timothy Mozgov. Fuck, this one's tough, eh?
It is.
They have a good coach as well, eh? Clifford? He's a really good coach.
And Markelle Fultz back. He looked okay in the preseason.
He looked all right, yeah. I got over.
This is tough.
I go
They looked good in the
half
playoffs
point over.
last year.
I do same record as last year, 42.
They played us well in the playoffs last year.
I think they go over as well. I hate to say.
And remember how hot they
agreeance.
were. Remember how hot they were at the end of last season?
So the Orlando Magic are the only team we all agree on. Weird.
Okay. Philadelphia 76ers, 51-31, win total of 54.5. Ooh, this is another interesting one. In is Josh Richardson, Al Horford, Kyle O'Quinn, Raul Neto, and Trey Burke. They drafted Matisse Thybulle, and out is Jimmy Butler, JJ Redick, TJ McConnell, Boban, and Jonathan Simmons. I think, oh my God, fuck. I'm going to keep even, 54.5. I think I don't know what this team's going to look like. I know they brought in Al Horford. I know they brought in Josh Richardson. I don't know how the front court's going to shake. I'm
Okay, hold on. Question for you, just because you said the exact same number for Milwaukee. Who finishes number 1 in the Eastern Conference?
That's the two teams. I think Milwaukee is going to have like a one game above Philadelphia type of thing. 1B, 1A, 1B type of thing.
Okay. Greg?
I think the Raptors are right in that discussion personally, because I think all these teams are unproven. Mind you, with Philly, I can see them they should get over this.
I just don't know what that team's going to look like. Like the talent's there.
The construction,
I'm just
right?
the big front court. You know what I mean? Jimmy Butler's gone. Who's going to be their go-to closer in the fourth quarter? I'm just not quite sure how that roster.
The three of us could play beside,
I guess,
Ben Simmons and Embiid, and they should be able to get like 40.
Right, but you're also putting in a guy who's 6'9", traditional power forward, Tobias Harris, back to the 3 position. Might be, I'm just not quite sure how that team's.
I like him at the
smaller.
Horford is so smart, though. I feel like they're going to be able to work it out. They better win over 50 games. So I got them over 54. They should get over 54.
Same. I think that. So I have
that talent.
Okay, that starting 5 with Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, and Joel Embiid.
Josh Richardson is good.
That's 4 All-Stars in their starting 5.
Yeah.
You still have, like, I don't know, in my mind, a decent enough bench that you can like rely on. I don't know.
Great draft pick as well. Thibault, I think, is an absolute stud for what they need. Just a really good, like, one-dimensional defensive player. That's it.
Ben Simmons, I think, can take the next step.
He drained a 3 in preseason.
He drained a 3 already.
Anything can happen.
As long as Joel Embiid stays healthy.
Yeah.
And really, I think they're going to work. They might,
but that's a big if.
But they might even.
You know what? If they load manage him, then that's going to take away the wins.
Kawhi set the precedent, or the Raptors set the precedent with Kawhi that it's okay to take some games off. I don't think we see.
Yeah, but do you think Embiid's going to enjoy that, having his minute structured or reserved like that?
It doesn't matter. I mean, honestly, like,
did he enjoy crying last year?
I was about to say that's the alternative.
After
losing to teams that did get rest
in the shoulders of Marc Gasol. All right, moving down the list, the Toronto Raptors last year 50-24, win totals at 46.5. We brought in Stanley Johnson, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Campaign, Matt Thomas, Devin Robinson. Fuck. We drafted DeJuan Hernandez in the second round. So basically, like, we traded Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green for Stanley Johnson, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Campaign, Matt Thomas, and Devin Robinson. I'm going to go, obviously, above the 46.5. I'm going to go 49.
So you say obviously, right?
That's a terrible trade.
But this is not, like, the common sort of trope right now that's going on is that, maybe the Raptors can get into 7th, 8th, or 5th to 8th spot. Now, I don't want to be Matt Devlin, who seems to just, like, be in the Raptors cult of Masai Ujiri, okay? Like, thinking that, our continuity and our culture of winning is going to guarantee us a top 3 seed. But I look at this team, and I see us as just as good as we were the last year that DeRozan was here. Because you've got a similar structure around, but you've got an emerging Pascal Siakam who's going to kind of take that DeRozan scoring. I think we can win plus 50, but I think they need to make some trades at the deadline to get some fucking shooting.
Look, they have us 5th, right? Like, technically, if you go through this win share thing, they're right behind Boston.
That's I could see that, but I think we're above 46.
I agree. I think we're going to get to 50 wins just because of. We have pretty much the same core, minus obviously, Kawhi, but we still have, like, between Siakam, Ibaka, Powell, Van Vliet, Lowry,
Ibaka's
Gasol.
been playing good. He's looked good, man.
He's looked great. Although I'm worried about that. You never know. So for me, the Raptors are going over. They're going to get to 50 wins, and I think they're going to finish 4th.
All right, last team we got to discuss, Washington Wizards, win total last year, their record last year, 32-50, win total is 27.5. They brought in Isaiah Thomas, Ish Smith, CJ Miles, David Bertrands, and Graffin's German boys, Isaac Bonga and Mo Wagner. They drafted Rui Hachimura, and they grabbed Admiral Schofield in the second round. Out, Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard, Bob Portis, Thomas Satoransky, Jabari Parker, Jeff Green, and Devin Robinson. I am going to go slightly below the 27.5 of 26.
Just strictly because they got rid of Dwight Howard, Bobby Portis, Jabari Parker. That's a pretty good offseason.
Yeah.
That's not too bad.
It sounds good.
They just got rid of some terrible pickups. I go under as well.
What was the trade again? Bobby Portis, Jabari Parker to Chicago. Oh, the Otto Porter trade.
Otto Porter, yeah.
I would really like to see Bradley Beal get traded.
You fucking love Bradley Beal.
Okay, he's great. I would like to see him get traded. You know who I think should go after him? Denver. I think Denver should go after Bradley Beal.
Spoiler alert for next week.
My sources, guy. I got my sources.
Alrighty,
I have them under as well. 27.5 seems a little bit too high. I think they're going to be closer to the Charlotte range this year as well.
Alrighty, jumping to the third quarter, we'll touch base on this really, really quickly. I don't really want to go ad nauseum about this. I'm going to do a terrible job.
We don't know enough. We're not educated.
I'm going to explain the situation in the best way I possibly can, and Greg's going to interrupt me and say, no, that's actually politically incorrect and socially racist. And here we go. Anyways, so
this kind of is Greg's gripe.
It's a very,
yeah. This is also.
Let's combine it then. Third and fourth quarter together.
Exactly.
We'll close this fucker out with this.
Right.
So basically, what has happened in China right now is that Hong Kong's identified as a singular autonomous nation, separate from China. Right now, they're trying to. China is basically trying to make them part of the nation of China, the Chinese Empire. Hong Kong's trying to maintain its sovereignty. Is that fine?
Generally speaking, there's an issue over the extradition, but yeah, it's
semantics, right? Okay.
So their independence as
independence from China,
unique from the rest of China.
Their cultural independence, let's say.
Yeah.
So Daryl Morey last week or a couple weeks ago basically stated that he shows his support for the sovereign nation of Hong Kong. And Adam Silver subsequently didn't suspend him, but fined him. A lot of Chinese investors for Houston Rockets pulled out of their investment toward the Houston Rockets organization. Houston obviously is mostly known as one of the biggest teams in the Chinese market. Linsanity, Jeremy Lin going there, as well as Yao Ming playing for the organization. LeBron James last night probably did shot himself in the mouth a little bit more. What was the term that he used? About Daryl Morey's statements,
being uneducated
perspective, but his people were saying he's being a hypocrite because by saying his opinion is uneducated, he's also uneducated talking about a topic that he has nothing to talk about.
Sorry, and just on that note though about the protests there in Hong Kong, a lot of people are also protesting basically the internment camps that China's been operating. I'm not good with the pronunciation, but the Uyghurs. Right, the
Uyghurs, the indigenous
right?
Chinese community,
right? No, but Muslim, right? So, but the issue includes that as well, right? Anyways,
bereft of politics as much as we possibly can in the situation, because obviously it's a very complicated issue, and I don't necessarily think we're in any position to really have any concrete beliefs or have a rigid ideology about the specific issue. Greg, what is your sort of gripe and interpretation of the events, specifically Daryl Morey sort of getting slapped in the hand by the NBA and Adam Silver as well, NBA losing commercial interest in China, then pulling out, and LeBron James statements.
Well, okay. For great commentary on this, you got to watch the new South Parks, right? I just watched the episode prior to last week's, where the whole thing was basically making fun of the fact that so many American companies are being censored by China because they want in on their market. Okay, so they're kind of making light of the fact that this communist government, right, is actually having a large impact on the economic activities of America, right? And it's just a great episode, so I would definitely watch it. But, you know, I find it actually quite comical, right? Like all these NBA players who want to have social justice causes, and Disney who, you know, likes to say that they're on board for stuff like this when it's convenient for them, right? But when it comes to like political economy, right, and supporting, you know, just the basic issue, you know, you want to have a global brand, you want to go and you want to play in China. Well, this is what you got to deal with. Right? And there's a naivety in Daryl Morey. LeBron's right. Like, but I don't think it's him being uneducated. It's naive. It was naive and short-sighted of him to tweet that because you got to know.
Because you can read about the complexity of the issue. You can read the Wikipedia sort of abbreviation of the events happening, and you can stay tuned to the news and feel like you're informed as much as you can. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I know it's such a cliche thing to say and cheesy, but you don't walk in the shoes of these people. You don't understand the individual life struggle or the issues or why they desire to become a sovereign nation, the complexity, the cultural issues that you were talking about.
Sure, yeah.
So for Daryl Morey to be this rich, affluent, white-collar GM of the Houston Rockets in America, separate from China, for him to have this very rigid opinion about such a complex issue is very naive and misguided.
And what you just said there, though, is I think exactly what LeBron James was trying to say. He just doesn't. He just wasn't really, but articulate with the way he said it. But that was his main point, is that Daryl, it wasn't the issue. He wants to stay away from the politics, almost like we do.
But that's impossible.
No, but at the same time,
it's inextricably linked.
No, but listen for a second, because in the end of the day, his whole point is it is not impossible if you don't live it. How can you possibly say you're attached to an issue if you don't even live in the country you're talking about?
Well, all he said was like, we stand in support. Right.
Yeah, but look what happened. But that's LeBron's point.
It's naive. It's naive
exactly.
for him not to think there'd be a pushback.
Exactly. I mean, again, in the end of the day, everyone's comparing it to LeBron's like previous tweets, like about MLK and justice and equality and stuff. But that was specifically about America, specifically about African Americans, specifically about something that he has been.
But why does it stop there? Okay, but why does it stop there?
Because again, he doesn't live it. He doesn't know.
But that
to educate yourself on something would mean you have to pretty much. To be that well educated on this issue, in my mind, is you almost have to be like a professor. Not many people know what they're really talking about when it comes down to this Chinese Hong Kong.
Exactly. You can be globally aware.
Historically, exactly. You can know some points and some facts.
We don't know that Daryl Morey isn't educated on this issue.
It's not a matter. It's not a matter of being educated. It's not a matter of having the educated knowledge to be able to have that said discussion.
Yeah.
It's the fact that he shouldn't be having that discussion in the first place because he's not in a position based on his life and where he is to be able to be to have such a rigid voice and opinion about something, especially when he's representing the organization like the Houston Rockets, especially when he's representing a multi-billion-dollar corporation like the NBA.
And I agree with that because the NBA is a business and it's owned by Disney. And
it's a business.
Yeah, straight up, right? But I find it interesting how, the NBA can tout its social justice causes when it doesn't conflict with Nike and Nike's bottom line. But as soon as it conflicts with Nike's bottom line, all of a sudden social justice isn't important.
Right. You're absolutely right. But this is not this one singular corporation, doing this. This is just rampant across business in general. You know what I mean? Like you can't shit on the NBA for doing this. You have to look. You can't have a black eye.
Look, it's a lose-lose situation for LeBron. Look, today, right now in Hong Kong, they're burning his jersey everywhere.
He says anything.
He says
I agree with you. He shouldn't have said anything. He has no responsibility as the face of the NBA to chime in this situation, regardless of the fact that he's in China playing a game.
Okay, so what you said before about LeBron...
I don't think anybody should be talking
about
it.
Hold on. I was going to say, because you said this before, I think people should be informed, right? You mentioned, like, you can't say something like this without being informed on it. That's the luxury I think LeBron James doesn't have, is he gets... Every single person after Daryl Morey said that statement was basically saying... What's LeBron's take on this? What's LeBron's take on this? People were looking to wait. They were waiting for LeBron's statement. The reporters, he was in China for the last 2 weeks.
When they ask him that,
he avoided all of that the entire time.
When they ask him for his opinion, though, what's the intention behind that? Are they asking it because it's important to hear the voice of LeBron James, or is it because how it's going to be... impacted on the people who like his fans and stuff like kind of shit. Like I just don't understand why it's necessary for LeBron to
threw his support behind the protest in Hong Kong. They were like his voice is huge. The Chinese government doesn't want that. Right? They're completely censoring that shit. They don't want people in mainland China. And I'm not an expert on this issue. My friend Tim Kwong would be lecturing me right now. Okay, but LeBron shouldn't have then said anything. To come out now and take like a stance against Morey for actually, look, you could say he's not educated, whatever, but his opinion there is in line with like, human rights and like the UN and like Amnesty International.
But we're not talking about right or wrong though.
That's the thing is LeBron's point. He clarified it in the tweet. It's not about the politics. It's about the tweet. So why would you tweet something like that? Is basically what he said.
As an individual agent bereft of the NBA and the Houston Rockets.
Yeah, like you've seen the repercussions. Well, is Hong Kong free?
No. But this is a fascinating. It's fascinating, right? Because we're in this global economy, right? And the NBA is trying to become international, and here we have these issues now of like globalization and like human rights that sport is kind of sitting right on the precipice of.
Well, obviously, it's going to be something that's going to kind of bubble to the surface gradually over time as the league expands, evolves. You know what I mean? And I think this is a good test case example of knowing what to do in these type of situations, and specifically knowing that maybe I shouldn't be the person stating an opinion on the behoof of the NBA. Maybe she, Dennis Silver, sending out like a very Adam Silver, a very sort of like centered memo. To members of the media.
The league didn't handle it well.
Yeah.
The league handled it, I think, very poorly.
Yeah.
Artie, any last comments before we sign off, boys?
I just think it's funny how, like, sports is like the uniter, right? It always unites people, and historically, And here's Daryl Morey almost starting World War III. It's just that's going to make me laugh every single time I think.
Watch the newest South Park.
All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in.
Keep celebrating that championship, too.
Keep celebrating the championship. We'll get a second one this year. It's going to happen. We'll be back hopefully every week moving forward up until the end of the NBA season when the Raptors carry their second NBA championship.
Zion coming to town.
So, yeah, tune in, guys. We'll have a ton of information to provide you guys with, opinions, insight, conjecture, etc.
Well, the opening night is a week away.
1 week away, and you can also catch us on Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, SoundCloud, and obviously iTunes. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. You can catch our Instagram page, T Sport Matters, and yeah, go Raps, go.